Well, there's a lot of operational details that can't be discussed publicly, obviously, for obvious reasons. So as we move forward, we'll describe our process, which is a threefold process in Venezuela. I've described it to them now. Step one is the stabilization of the country. We don't want it descending into chaos. Part of that stabilization, and the reason why we understand and believe that we have the strongest leverage possible, is our quarantine. As you've seen today, 2 more ships were seized. We are in the midst right now and, in fact, about to execute on a deal to take all the oil. They have oil that is stuck in Venezuela. They can't move it because of our quarantine and because it's sanctioned. We are going to take between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil. We're going to sell it in the marketplace at market rates, not at the discounts Venezuela was getting. That money will then be handled in such a way that we will control how it is dispersed in a way that benefits the Venezuelan people, not corruption, not the regime. So we have a lot of leverage to move on the stabilization front. The second phase will be a phase that we call recovery, and that is ensuring that American, Western, and other companies have access to the Venezuelan market in a way that's fair. Also, at the same time, begin to create the process of reconciliation nationally within Venezuela so that the opposition forces can be amnestied and released and from prisons or brought back to the country and begin to rebuild civil society. And then the third phase, of course, will be one of transition. Some of this will overlap. I've described this to them in great detail. We'll have more detail in the days to follow. But we feel like we're moving forward here in a very positive way.
Let's go ahead and bring Monica Alba in on those comments. Again, Secretary of State Marco Rubio laying out a plan for Venezuela. He says it's a 3-step plan. You just heard there: stabilization, recovery, and then transition. Obviously, there are quite a few questions about exactly how that works and more details are needed. But Monica, what do we know at this point?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, Savannah. A couple of points there. Of course, we have this ongoing operation. You saw Secretary Rubio reference that to seize these additional sanctioned oil tankers that have a lot of questions raised about them in terms of where they were headed and the fact that Russia seemed to be trying to at least move or take over and operate one of them. And that is why the U.S. forces and the Coast Guard made this decision to be sure that the U.S. could reclaim it and then figure out what is going to happen with it next. So that's one piece of this that's ongoing today and new and important and relevant. And then you have the president's announcement from overnight that essentially more than somewhere between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil are going to be taken from Venezuela and sold at market value. And that is something that is going to be operated by the United States. And we're told today from a senior administration official, and this is sort of what Secretary Rubio was talking about, that process is apparently going to begin immediately and then continue indefinitely. And in order for that to happen, the U.S. is going to, according to a senior administration official, selectively roll back some sanctions on Venezuela in order to do this and in order to pursue that. So you have Secretary Rubio here talking about these plans, talking certainly about what could happen next. But there are still some overarching and larger questions, Savannah, about the timeline for all of this and who really is going to be directing and involved in executing some of this. Remember, it's been President Trump who said to our own Kristen Welker that he says he's in charge of all of this and he's going to be dictating it. Secretary Rubio, for his part, had said really it's the U.S. that's determining the policy but not necessarily running the country of Venezuela. But you do have a continued touting of the military operation from over the weekend that captured Nicolas Maduro and his wife from both Secretary Rubio and the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who was appearing alongside him, as of course the two of them were briefing lawmakers, many of whom, both Democrats and Republicans, have pressed for more information, have asked the administration to share more details about some of those decisions and about what could happen next, if there could be more military action in Venezuela, and the larger question, too, of whether that would require congressional approval, which is not something at this point that the Trump administration or that the president has requested formally.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.